So what do you think? Can the Straw Hats actually survive the Dark Continent from Hunter x Hunter? Well, the short answer is no. And as for the longer answer, make sure to watch till the end of the video, because we're going to break down exactly why the Straw Hats versus the Dark Continent isn't even close. You see, the Dark Continent has nothing to do with power scaling. It's a survival horror world, and as dramatic as this is going to sound, it's a place that completely crushes shonen optimism with unhinged existential dread. Now, in case you haven't read the Hunter x Hunter manga, let's go over what the Dark Continent actually is. You see, in Hunter x Hunter, the known world where everything the story has happened so far is actually just a tiny part of the actual world. Basically, there's a lake called Lake Mobius, and the entire known world exists inside this single lake. Everything beyond the lake is the Dark Continent, and although there's no official confirmation, it's exponentially bigger than our world, maybe even 600 times bigger, which is what fans have speculated by using the map itself as a reference point. Of course, the One Piece world is also implied to be bigger than our own. Plus, the Straw Hats have also faced a ridiculous amount of unpredictability and chaos in both the Grand Line and the New World. However, the Dark Continent is so much larger in scale than anything the Straw Hats have experienced, and it's also complete uncharted territory. Yes, there have been expeditions in the Dark Continent, but the survival rate has been less than 1%. And that's just the survival rate, because no known character except maybe Don Freaks has actually thrived in the Dark Continent. I mean, to remind you of how it all went down with the 5 major expedition teams, the Begaros Union sent 1,000 people and only 7 survived after they encountered Pop, a brain-controlling parasite. The United States of Saherta entered ancient city ruins and lost almost everyone to Brion, a botanical weapon. There were literally only 2 survivors out of everyone they had sent. The Federation of Ochima went into a swamp and came across Hellbell, a rage-inducing snake, and guess what? Only 11 out of 1,000 made it back. The Mimbo Republic met Ai, a sentient gas that causes insanity, and returned with just 3 survivors. The Kukanyu Kingdom was attacked by Zobai, a disease that makes you immortal but forces you to eat yourself, and only 6 people, including Beyond Netero, came back. Of course, we also know that a young Isaac Netero went on an undocumented expedition to the Dark Continent along with Zig Zoldyck and someone named Lin. But again, while we don't know how it all went, we know that Isaac never went back. Even his son had to wait until he died to plan the 6th expedition together with the Kakin Empire. So, what do you think? Can the Straw Hats survive there? Obviously, the monster trio can defeat physical threats. Sanji can cook something up, Nami can try figuring out the weather, Frankie can build a shelter, Chopper can figure out how to make some good medicine, Robin can try to understand the nature of things in the Dark Continent, Usopp can make up lies about how he conquered the Dark Continent when he was born, Brook can crack a few skull jokes, and Jinbei can drop a one-liner here and there. But overall, this is not beyond what the absolute best hunters in Hunter x Hunter can do. Fatigue, lack of supplies, and the hostility from Mother Nature would wear them down fast, even if they're New World veterans. The Straw Hats are used to dangerous islands like Little Garden's Dinosaurs, Sky Island, Fishman Island, Impel Down Levels, Punk Hazard's environment, and the Seducing Woods in Whole Cake Island. But the whole thing about those situations is that it's not hard to figure out what's going on. Meanwhile, the Dark Continent is incomprehensible by design. Just think about it. How will Sanji know what to cook if he's never seen any of these creatures? How will he recognize pollen that can disable your nervous system? What about plants with pheromones that can summon disgusting creatures? Or what about water that looks clean but infests your body with pathogens no one has ever learnt about? Guys, Luffy was on the verge of death after eating a random poisonous fish despite having poison resistance. Do you think he can survive things that no one even knows about? Yeah, sorry Luffy, I don't think you're surviving this one, even with MC plot armor. Chopper can treat symptoms, but what'll he do when it's an unknown pathogen or a reality-bending toxin? They can survive for a few days if they're lucky, but sleep deprivation and constant adrenaline will inevitably catch up to physically weak Straw Hats like Nami and Usopp. Sanji and Chopper will have to be absolutely thorough with any food or water they try to prepare for consumption. But again, that's not sustainable, and so hunger will also catch up to them soon. The longer they're in the Dark Continent, the weaker they're gonna get, and considering how it's impossible for every Straw Hat to survive the Dark Continent, one or more of the Straw Hats will definitely, unquestionably die within a week. By the way, we haven't even considered the 5 great calamities yet. We're talking about the existential threats that even humanity's best Nen users couldn't understand or survive. There's Hellbell. It's a small snake with 2 tails and a bell-shaped lump. But one bite from this little thing and you're done. Its venom induces a murderous, uncontrollable rage. Even the calmest, most chill person will inevitably lose their mind. Guys, I know that Haki enhances willpower and resilience, but this is a biochemical toxin. Luffy can't Haki his way out of biological damage, just like how Roger, invincible as he was, could never heal his illness. Yeah, Chopper can try to come up with an antidote, but he's never seen this venom before. In the time it takes to maybe figure something out, there's no telling what can happen. And if it's Chopper himself who gets bit, then forget about everyone else. Every Straw Hat has to flee immediately. Next is I. It's basically a sentient gas that creeps in and drives everyone crazy. And unlike Hellbell, where Zoro can immediately slice it up, I is a gas, so physical attacks are pointless. And we don't know if Haki would work, because Haki didn't work against Caesar's gas and Punk Hazard, did it? Yes, Nami can summon a storm to try to disperse it, or Sanji can try to burn some of it off, but those are temporary fixes. Honestly, Brook may have a decent shot here. He's the only one who has no lungs, so he's definitely going to be immune to Ai's inhalation effect. However, while it's not yet confirmed in the canon, it's been heavily implied that the Nanaka that exists within Killua's sister is the same thing as Ai, and we know that Nanaka can grant any wish. This means that we can forget about applying consistent logic to these calamities. The third one is Brion. It's a massive plant-based Titan-type creature, and to be fair, the Straw Hats have a very decent shot if this is the first calamity they come across. Zoro can slice it up, Sanji can fire it up, and Frankie has this radical damage. So if Luffy doesn't rush into it like an idiot, they can definitely neutralize this one. Though they're not going to come out of this fight unscathed. The fourth one is Pap. It's a creature that makes you its puppet by taking over your mind and body until you become a useless doll. This is the first of the 5 documented calamities, and just to remind you, only 7 out of 1,000 expedition hunters survived to face off with Pap. They were all competent hunters who were well prepared to face off against the unknown of the Dark Continent, and they had a less than 1% survival rate. So it's completely delusional to think that all Straw Hats can survive this. The 5th calamity is Zobai, the immortality disease. Arguably the most horrifying calamity of them all, because it infects you via seemingly harmless contact. At first, nothing seems wrong, until you take fatal damage and don't die. Of course, that doesn't sound too bad. I'm sure Zoro can handle that level of constant pain for all eternity. But the thing about Zobai is that it's an immortality curse. Just to sum it up, you start consuming your own flesh in an unending, grotesque cycle of regeneration and decay. See, there's no winning. It'll completely break the spirit of the Straw Hats if any of them are affected. And let me just add that the 5 great calamities are just the tip of the iceberg. These are merely what hunters have identified during limited expeditions. The Dark Continent is vast. It's hundreds of times larger than the known world. It's like that quote from Skypiea that says, everything that humans can imagine can happen in reality. The Straw Hats wouldn't just face Hellbell, Ai, Pop, Brion, and Zobai. They'd almost certainly stumble into more undocumented horrors that are definitely even worse than these 5. Ultimately, none of the resilience and power of the Straw Hats matter in the face of absolute unhinged reality itself. It's one thing if it was just about the strength of their will, but the Dark Continent is biological and psychological warfare. There's a reason why Netero, who wanted a good fight, never went back to the Dark Continent. He understood for a fact that the Dark Continent is not a place for the one-on-one combat he desired. The Dark Continent is the death of shonen optimism. Do you think the Straw Hats can survive the Dark Continent? And would it be close? Also, see what happens when Sung Jin Woo visits all the mainstream anime here.